Gudadero. You can find us at the Big Gouda on YouTube for him. You can find us also on YouTube. Just search my name, Doug Shane. Make sure that you like, share, subscribe. Click the notification icon. Let us know. Let us know that you're out there, and we'll let you know when we've got anything going on. We go live every Friday night, 7 o'clock Eastern, and every Sunday morning before lock, 11:30 a.m. on the East Coast. Please make sure to jump into chat, ask some questions, and let us know what's going on. You can find our work, banksterdfs.com. $3.99 a week. Get you every sport that we cover, and we cover them all. You also get daily articles, our player pools, and our members-only Slack chat, which is the best Slack chat in the business for under $4 a week. Play a $5 double up every week. You make your money back. It is fantastic. Check us out again, banksterdfs.com/subscribe, or hit us up on Twitter. Gouda, how you doing this morning, buddy?
I'm great. I'm ready to go. It's been an interesting couple of days. We got our first weekend with real weather issues, and that's how you know you're getting into mid-season. We had some major injury watches the past 2 weeks, and now we've got a real weather issues, which some of the top targets, especially for tournaments and all that, are facing some real weather issues. So it becomes an interesting one. Are you pivoting to lower owned? Are you sticking with your guns? And it's gonna be quite the day to see what the end leaderboard looks like, and who who really goes off in these.
And if it's not COVID, it's something else. I mean, no COVID worries at all this week. And now we've got weather. No. We've got weather in so many games. I know Sean's going to come talk about weather in a little bit, but just as we're getting rolling, as we're getting started, what games are we most concerned about from your perspective for the weather?
Yeah, so, I mean, out of the bad weather games, the one that's probably least concerning is the Tennessee-Cincinnati game. In that one, you're looking, the wind is going to be consistently 15 to 20 miles an hour, and that's kind of where you start to get, to have issues with having concerns. So when you start to hit like 15 miles an hour, it starts to affect things slightly, not too bad, and then 20 is kind of the threshold where deeper passes become a little bit of an issue. But with this game, these teams aren't really those that stretch the field with 20, 30, 40-yard passes. These are more short and intermediate type of receivers that can just make plays when they get the ball in their hands. So this one is not as concerning as far as that goes. You can still have exposure on these guys. You may want to maybe not have as many lineups potentially as you initially did. Like if you're making 150, and if you were going to have this game, in 50 to 60 lineups, maybe you bring it down to 30 to 40 type of thing. But other than that, I think this one is okay. It's still a good spot to use and all, and to feel confident. Like I'm still using Burrow in my cash lineup, so I haven't come off of it totally in any sense from there. One thing that does worry me, one of the games, really the most concerning is the Raiders Browns game. That one we're going to see. Winds 30 miles an hour, even getting up to 45. And for that, I mean, not that either of these teams are too much of a deeper passing team. The Raiders do use some of those plays with some of their field stretchers, but that's the concerning one. That's the one where I've really come off of it. And, my exposure really is the running backs and the defenses with a little bit of the tight ends sprinkled in. But for the fact that these defenses have been burnt a little bit, you can get a little interesting in GPPs with it if you still believe in the defenses will have a bad day. Using the quarterbacks may not be the worst idea in the world, as they'll probably spread it out. It'll be more of a dink and dunk. But we've seen before. We've seen Tom Brady for years dink and dunk his way to 300 yards passing. Every week with the Patriots. So it's very possible you see Mayfield or Carr, have 300 yards and 2 touchdowns and end up being under 10% owned. And, you can even do a game stack with those guys in a weird way. You can use Mayfield or Carr with the 2 running backs, with Hunt and Jacobs in there. These guys should be getting tons of work like they always do. And maybe it's even more emphasized this week because of the weather concerns and all. And, they're not going to be able to really kick field goals in this game. Even the extra points may be, maybe really adventurous that they just are going for 2 every game. Every down. And even punting, punting is going to be an absolute disaster in this one. So you could see a lot more offensive plays, a lot more shorter fields where the points can accumulate real quickly, and you'll have to hit the guys with the touchdowns, not necessarily the yardage totals there. So that's going to be a wild one to watch as well. And then really the
Game
other
makes
one,
me sad.
Yeah, it's disappointing, but there's plenty of opportunities to go. And New England and Buffalo is going to be a really bad weather day as well. But I'm not worried about that game because I wasn't really using anybody anyway there. That's just going to be a slop fest. That game could have been 6-3, like some just real ugly stuff. And then Minnesota Green Bay is a concerning one, especially early on in the game. There's going to be really, really bad winds. So again, this is one focus on the running game there. Probably some exposure to Aaron Rodgers just because, again, he's the type of guy, he can get to 300 yards and 2 touchdowns just because they're going to use him, they're going to throw. And probably Devontae Adams, you want some exposure in GPP also because he's still going to get double-digit targets. Now, he may end the day with, a silly line like 10 receptions for 60 yards, which at his price tag, that's not doing anything for you unless he's getting multiple touchdowns. So there's definitely concerns there because of his price tag, but I think you need exposure in GPP just because of what he brings to the table. If you're making 5 or less lineups or you just kind of single bullet it, I'd probably fade Adams because that price, it's going to be nearly impossible to pay off with what this weather looks like if he's not in the end zone multiple times. And you can never, ever count on a guy getting in the end zone, 2 or 3 times in a given game.
For sure. And I've had Devontae Adams in my cash lineup, and he's pulled. I just went 3 high-end running backs instead. I just don't think you can run Devontae Adams in cash. I think that's a great point. At GPP, I think there's leverage you can have because I do think Rodgers is going to get the ball to him in short and intermediate routes, and he does have that touchdown equity. So I do like him, and I actually think you can gain some leverage now with him. I think people are going to be off him, go higher with Jamal Williams, and that Dalvin Cook end of it. I trust Devontae Adams a lot more than I trust the Minnesota receivers. Thielen could get a low A-dot. I like Irv Smith in the game. I'm kind of off Justin Jefferson, even in GPPs at this point. I just don't see how he's getting down the field. He could run a slant, I suppose, and take one, but I'm kind of running off at the end of that game. That game's not – I'm not going heavy. I'm done. I'm kind of off of Rodgers, and I was never really on Cousins for that game. That Cleveland-Las Vegas game, that makes me sad. That game just makes me sad because I was going to stack the hell out of that game, but can't do that much now, though I do think there's leverage to have. Kareem Hunt should be fine. You could actually go grab some Josh Jacobs at this point now and possibly get some work out of him, but Cleveland's going to probably stack the box because it's not like Derek Carr is going to be winging it down the field, and so they know they can play a little closer. I do think Waller's going to get hurt with targets. I prefer him in the GPP. I'm probably not touching him in cash at this point. Still love the Browns' defense in that high wins because if Carr does try to wing it down the field, there could be havoc, and that's great because few teams in the league are better at forcing a turnover than the Cleveland Browns, so I love that. I wasn't touching New England Buffalo anyway. I'm not changing anything on Cincinnati, Tennessee, except for maybe moving some T. Higgins shares to A.J. Green, simply because I think A.J. Green will get the shorter and intermediate routes where T. Higgins might be a little more down the field. Chicago, New Orleans has some weather concerns, but we weren't playing heavily in that game outside of Kamara anyway. Maybe Jimmy Graham. I'm okay with Jimmy Graham in this situation, but for the most part, I'm just shifting. I'm shifting my GPPs. I'm just not going as high on Green Bay, Minnesota this week. I'm definitely not going with the Rashad Higgins or Henry Ruggs type of plays anymore. I do think Harrison Bryant's still in play for Cleveland, but I'm just shifting a lot of that ownership to. Obviously, I'm sticking with Tennessee, Cincinnati, like you said. I don't think we're pulling off that game. I'm shifting a lot of ownership to Pittsburgh, Baltimore. I've got a lot of on that game. I think that game could surprise. There is some weather concerns there, but not. It's not going to be so bad. They say by kickoff it should be okay, and the wind gusts shouldn't get crazy. And I just think those offenses are in a good position to do a little something that game, particularly the Baltimore side. I'm pretty heavy on that game as a result of the weather. Josh Hook and I were talking about, where's that ownership going to go? And I think we could all agree it's probably going to San Francisco, Seattle, which was to have high ownership. It's probably going to see even more ownership.
Yep.
I'm not in love with that game, so. Well, I do have some exposure, particularly to Kendrick Bourne and Brandon Ayuk, and I think Jimmy Garoppolo is cash game viable. I do think he's GPP viable. I'm also not going to be going heavy on that game. I have some ownership, but I'll be below the field on that, and I'll shift to that Baltimore-Pittsburgh game and the Jets-Kansas City game. The more I think about the Jets-Kansas City game, the more I just think that game is going to be really interesting for a GPP. It is worth noting too, Frank Gore is actually playing. that you may want to temper some expectations on the Michael Pirine, though he was at 70% snap share last week anyway. So
yeah,
I think he's taken over that running back position. He's still in play, but not quite the smash. I don't know if the Michael Pirine was ever a smash, but Gore will probably have to get in and get some work. I think you want the pieces of the Jets passing game if you're going that route. And back to talking about the Jets again. It's like, why do we do this to ourselves? But there we go, back to the Jets.
I know.
And so that's where the weather is. I don't think if we're taking a peek here at the actives and inactives that I've thrown up on the board, I think it's a little bit of a surprise Damian Harris is playing. I thought there would be some opportunity for Rex Burkhead, James White this week, but that doesn't look like that's going to be viable. I just think avoiding that game altogether is smart. Frank Gore playing, again, hurts Pirine a little bit, but we weren't going heavy on Pirine. Michael Pittman playing could put a damper on Marcus Johnson and Zach Pascal a little bit. Tyler Higbee playing, we weren't playing tight ends. Mo Alley Cox playing, maybe takes away some touchdown equity from Trey Burton, but we still like Burton for cash. And then none of the inactives were surprising at all. We knew Crowder, Perryman, Ingram, N'Keal Harry, Julian Edelman, Sammy Watkins. We knew they weren't playing this week, and so they're not, and that, nothing has to change. So I think we're in a good position there with that. And as we're talking about Zach Pascal, as I mentioned him, and we're talking about those Jets receivers, joining us right now, our very own Dirty Slot, our buddy, Sean. How you doing, Sean? Sorry, I totally lost track of what I was doing. And as I'm trying to intro you, I'm like, who am I? Sean, how you doing?
Not too bad. Last I heard was, why are we doing this to ourselves again with the Jets?
Well, we were talking about where we might want to move some ownership if we don't want to go heavy on Seattle and San Francisco. And so we were like, well, we were talking about the Pittsburgh-Baltimore game, which we love, and that Jets-Kansas City game. And then, of course, it's back to, why is it that we're always talking about the Jets every single week? What is wrong with us that we're talking about the Jets every single week?
Man, are we going to look geniuses if they win today?
Well, I'm not going to look at genius, but if Denzel Mims and Braxton Berrios both get 100 yards, I'm going to feel really good. I feel really good about this.
If Braxton Berrios gets 100 yards today, I might go streaking. There could be a TikTok video of me streaking. I'm just saying that's in the realm of outcomes today. That's where we're at. Love the chaos. Love me some chaos.
Man.
And you know what else you love? You love slot receivers. So much so that you are our very own Dirty Slot. And why don't you talk to us about some slot receivers that we're going to take a peek-see-poo at this week? Some guys that you like that, we might want to take a peek at.
Well, I mean, as the aforementioned Berrios, right? Like, I got Whit Mims coming in. Mims is starting to close in on 15% ownership, which
makes me sad. I loved him as an under-owned guy.
Which makes me often, to be honest with you, not sad. Makes me off Mims. And I got Berrios coming in at less than 2. And I mean, Crowder targeted Gase offense. I mean, Crowder's down. I mean, have we got confirmation on that yet? He was down.
Crowder's out. Perryman is. We have confirmation that they're both out.
All right, perfect. Yeah. So, you know what? Give me Berrios all day long. 2%. I mean, look at his target. He was targeted 7 times last week. If you scroll down to the where is it? Yeah, 7. Yeah, 7 times. Yeah, everyone's gonna play Mims. I mean, no one's playing Herndon. Frank Gore's back, so yeah, Pirine is. I definitely think Pirine is going to be the guy there, but yeah, I love Berrios. He's this week's dirty slot play. I'd add a couple of dirties on it because I mean it's the Jets.
It's very dirty.
It's very, very dirty. But there's a
the thing that you were. And the thing you were pointing out with those targets were the last 3 times Crowder has been out, in the 3 games Crowder has been out, Berrios has 19 total targets in those 3 games, and just jumped in and he wants to know about that stat again that Pat Mayo put out last night. I'll run that stat again one more time, and I'll then ask if it applies in this with you, Sean. The last 17 times an NFL underdog has been 14 or more points as an underdog. So there's been a line of plus 14 point there. The last 17 times the team has been in that situation, they've produced 18 100-yard receivers. So that means some teams have produced more than one 100-yard receiver as 14.5-point underdogs. The Jets are bigger than 14.5-point underdogs. It is a thing. And so I was all over Mims because of that with those 7 targets last week. But you know what? Berrios had the same 7 targets and the same 4 receptions. Sean, do you think that Berrios is the guy who might be able to put up 100 yards, or is there a path for both Berrios and Mims to put up 100 yards this week?
You know what? Absolutely. That makes sense to me. All right. I think, the teams that are favored by 14 or more usually probably take these games not seriously. In Kansas City, Andy Reid, I mean, they're probably going to have some fun out there. They're going to, Patrick Mahomes is going to throw with his left hand a couple of times. They're going to do something right. And you know what? The Jets have got nothing. I mean, it's the Jets. They got nothing to lose. You know what? Let Darnold chuck it 40 times. What do you got to lose? And if Darnold's chucking it 30 times or more, who's he chucking it to? So that makes sense to me, and I love that stat. Sign me up. And absolutely. I mean, like I said, Chris Herndon is not going to get it done. Perryman's out. Crowder's out. P. Ryan, like we were talking about on Friday night, P. Ryan last 2 games, 3 targets out of the backfield, both games for P. Ryan, right? So they're going to get down. Gore's not going to – I don't care if Gore's healthy. He's not going to be on the field because they're going to get down. P. Ryan's going to get targeted out of the backfield. So you're going to have Mims, Berrios, and P. Ryan being targeted 30 times.
Now, one other thing that I read, I don't remember which one of you guys put it in Slack the other day, but they were saying that the Chiefs are pretty good against outside wide receivers, 3rd best in the NFL, but really bad against slot wide receivers. So again, that speaks to your point with Berrios just a little bit more. Now I'm starting to get nervous about my cash lineup, but I don't have $3,500 I don't have the extra money to go up from Mims to Berrios. But I was telling Mike before we got on the air today, I said, boy, Sean's going to come in and ruin my confidence about my cash lineup within a few seconds talking about Berrios. And there it is. First one. First one.
Right, bull in a China. Hey, who else did I mention to you on Friday night in for $3,100 that nobody's going to own? Josh Reynolds.
Talk to me about Josh Reynolds.
Guy gets targeted in the red zone. Hey, you if you want to tinker, that's your call. But I'm just saying there are other options out. Like Josh Reynolds will have 0 ownership today. But anyways, that's Josh Reynolds is an outside receiver, and oh my god, I can't talk about that. That's just dirty.
Yeah, no, let's get rid of Reynolds. Bye, Josh Reynolds.
Yeah, I have a ton of Josh Reynolds. I have a ton of Josh Reynolds personally, but take that for what it means. You guys were chatting about the weather. The weather is a disaster. Cincinnati and Tennessee fired up. The key there is there's no there's some wind in Cincinnati, but there's no rain, there's no snow, there's nothing. So Cincinnati, Tennessee fired up. Cleveland and Vegas, that's some ugly right there. Because not only do they have the wind, there's going to be some rain and some snow mixed in. But you know what? I mean, no one's gonna be on there. I mean, you're not gonna go there in cash. But GPP, I wrote up Renfro and Landry for the dirty slot. You know what? GPP, I'll still have some. I will still have some exposure to that, just because it's gonna be short. Screens. You're gonna short little passes, stuff like that. The slam underneath the middle. I think you're still out there, but I mean, cash, you're not touching it.
No.
I love Baltimore Pittsburgh. I got a milli maker stack of that game. Love that game. Weather wise, it's what do we got for weather wise for Baltimore? Baltimore, where did I have it? We got so many tabs open for weather now. So Baltimore.
Last report said 10 to 15 mile per hour winds. Nothing too dirty at game time.
I'm not concerned about the wind at all, but they do have rain. There's going to be rain at the beginning of the game. And it looks like it's going to maybe by halftime stop and go whatever. Wind, there's some guy. I don't care about gusts or whatever. It's sustained wind that we're worried about, and it's less than 10 miles an hour there. I fire that game up, no problem. Green Bay. You guys mentioned Green Bay. It's going to be cold. Winds are touching above 20, and there's some gusts going on, but the winds go down in that game as you go along. So, I mean, you're not, like you said, Adam said 8,800 in cash, maybe not. But, I mean, everyone's going to run away from all those games. I'm going to run towards them personally. I have a ton of that. I have Rodgers. Tyler Boyd, of course, is my captain. Captain obvious play. Cincinnati's O line concerns me now because I don't know who they're going to play on the O line. That's my concern there. But Joe Burrow's still going to have to chuck it 40 times. He might get hit 15 times, but he's still going to chuck it 40 times, right? So I love Tyler Boyd still, but I'd feel better if he wasn't missing 3/4 of his starting offensive line for Burrow, but he's still going to chuck it 40 times.
I actually look at that as a positive. I almost look at that as a positive for Burrow, and this is my flawed logic perhaps, but be able to run the ball if the offensive line is down that much. Yeah, Burrow's going to take some hits, but he's been taking hits all year anyway and has been putting up 300 yards regardless. And if their line is that banged up, he's going to have to throw, and he's going to have to short and intermediate routes. And who does that favor? This dude right here, Mr. Boyd. So the offensive line doesn't worry me. To me, it's an opportunity.
I think Boyd's a lock for 15 targets this week, personally. I don't think
it's a big number.
Everyone loves AJ Green, the resurgence of AJ Green. Do you think for a second Burrow's going to have enough time for his old ass to get open?
Probably not.
AJ Green, how much time do you think you need for him to, at this point in his career to bust open a route, right? So
I think they're going to go short route. I think they're going to look for AJ Green on shorter routes this week, though. I think they're going to try to send Higgins long. I actually think AJ Green's going to run short. I think his catch radius is pretty high. I don't hate AJ Green this week. I actually moved him into my GPP or T Higgins simply because I think they're going to try to get him some more targets closer to the line of scrimmage. But I got Boyd above both of them.
If they make that, now we're relying on NFL coaching to be smart, right? If these coaches, they make these adjustments. You got to think Cincinnati, right, is going to make. This isn't the old Cincinnati Bengals, right? They're starting to figure it out a little bit. So hopefully they make the adjustments. But I think Boyd all day long. Higgins might be a little bit too long down the field for Burrow. But who knows? This is why we play the games. This is right. Like, it's chaos. The weather's a chaos. It's embrace the chaos. That's what I say.
Sean loves the guys. You got any other last thoughts? Any other players that we just need one more guy that you're like, hey, this is a guy no one's thinking of. Let's get him in that lineup. Last week, you won Zach Schultz. You really helped Zach Schultz. He brought it up on the interview I did with him yesterday. Zach Schultz won the 15 grand last week in the $5 whatever the tournament was. And he said one of the key plays was your Captain Obvious slot play, which was Tyler Lockett last week. Do we have a $15,000 winner in the dirty slot this week that we haven't mentioned yet?
Deal.
Besides Tyler Boyd, of course.
Well, honestly, Barrios could be that guy, but the other guy that I do have is Pascal from Indy. I actually like that. I like Rivers Pascal. I actually kind of off of Taylor. I actually don't have much of Taylor at all. Detroit gets up. If Detroit can get up in this game, oh my God, love me some Pascal. Pittman's back. Yeah, Pittman's back. I understand that, but Pascal's still running out. Pittman's going out wide, right? So
I think Pascal's been looking. He's been looking good since he's been getting those. He's got 8 and 7 targets in 2 of the last 3 weeks, and depends upon who you're talking to. Some people think this fly in, and some people think this game's worth avoiding. Which I have a feeling once you sign off, Sean, we're going to have ourselves a little debate about this game. But I know you've mentioned Pascal both now Friday and today, so this is that guy that people should. That's a little bit off the board that people should probably take a look at this week.
Well, so I'll just throw a little fuel on that fire. I like the Indy Detroit game, and I'm going to have a couple of stacks versions of that game. So I'm going to leave with that with you guys, and then you guys can argue about it, and I'm going to go listen offline. Good luck, everybody. Let's get.
Thanks, Sean. Best of luck. We'll catch up with you later. You guys can find Sean in our members only Slack chat at banksterdfs.com. $3.99 a week get you there. Sean, host of other experts, writers. I don't know what we call ourselves. Team members. We got ourselves some just a whole bunch of friends that are going to be out there to give you all the advice you need. $3.99 a week. Banksterdfs.com. We got a bunch of questions coming in, Mike. Before we argue about Indy Detroit, first of all, Big Max wants to let us know. Big Matt, one of our longtime friends, just made a Darnold, Mims, Barrios, Kelsey, Hill lineup. We'll call that the Sean stack of NFL. Once again, we've done it. We have talked someone into a net stack on the live stream. Mike, what have we done? How's Big Mac going to do with this? Can we analyze this a little bit?
I mean, what's Darnold, like 4,600 this week? So I guess if Darnold
48.
throws a 48. I guess if he throws a touchdown pass, he'll be close to close to value. If listen, if you can hit a home run with all the other guys with what you're saving there, and Kelsey and Hill are the two to go off, maybe. But I mean, who can ever trust the Jets stack, especially with
in a GPP though.
plays.
In a GPP though, right? Might as well.
I mean,
it's not the worst thing.
Listen, anything goes, and it's one of the better weather games this week. And for some reason, the Chiefs are still going to be under 10% owned. So yeah, I mean, hey, listen, you can definitely do worse. That's for sure.
Yeah, you could stack Indy. Before we get to that, before we get to that, old time friend grew up with this guy, my buddy Crod. Crod's in the chat, wants to see what we're doing. He has a question for season long. This is not DFS. This is season long. He wants to know McKinnon, DJ Dallas, or Devin Singletary. He's been crushed by injuries this year.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, I don't know how I feel about Singletary because Zach Moss is getting those carries. I say wait until the inactives come out. If any of the Seattle running backs that aren't DJ Dallas are active, you play McKinnon. But McKinnon's got those tired legs. So if DJ Dallas is getting the start, it's DJ Dallas. You could, I mean, is Singletary the best option? I mean, am I just wrong? Is Singletary the best option in this?
No, I don't think
right?
So. I mean, so if we get into the weather aspect of New England and Buffalo, which we didn't touch on just because we have no interest in that in DFS, it's going to be a slop fest. There's been rain and bad weather. It's going to be high winds and all that. So, I mean, Singletary maybe is going to get some check downs, but it's going to be a running day. It's going to be a low-scoring affair. I think that plays into Moss a lot better, and you're hoping Singletary continues to get half of the snap share and he gets some dump offs. But even there, I mean, when they're in the goal line, it's Moss's work. But if Carson is out, I mean, Hyde is doubtful. There was no expectation for him to play anyway. I'm surprised Carson is even questionable. But yeah, I would say DJ Dallas is definitely the strongest play here. Especially if Carson's out. Even if Carson's in, I think I may still lean Dallas over McKinnon.
Well, they still give extra carries to that secondary running back. Hyde was getting some carries, and when Hyde got hurt, they gave Travis Homer some carries, and he's not going to play this week. So even if Carson's in, I think DJ Dallas is the answer. I think
because McKinnon, I mean, I can't trust McKinnon after what happened last week, and them openly admitting that he's got the tired legs already after basically missing 2 straight years. And also, too, don't forget, Tevin. Not that Tevin Coleman's a world beater, but Tevin Coleman's back, and look what Hasty did last week, and they'll definitely use him a bit. So at a best case scenario, McKinnon is the lower end of a 3-man running scenario. So I think Dallas is probably the best play regardless.
And Dallas can catch some passes too, which is Chris Carson's worst skill set. So I think you're going to get some Dallas in this game. Could be a shootout. Yeah, Dallas is the guy. I think it's season long. Just for people who are just jumping in, is a season long question and just jumping in. I think DJ Dallas is the guy. Sam's jumped in actually before Sam's question. Big Matt just wanted to be clear with that jet stack. He did fit Henry and Kamara in there, which makes that jet stack a lot more palatable. That's where a jet stack becomes viable.
Yeah, I mean, if you got Henry, Kamara, Kelsey, and Hill all in the same lineup, you've got some major upside there.
You just need, I mean, if Hill can get you 20 points and Barrios and Mims can combine for 25 points, I mean, that.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Sam wants to know, we haven't talked about him much. Sam wants to know, Cooper Kupp, is he playable this week? I assume we're talking DFS here. I assume we're back to DFS. Not answering season-long questions, but I assume we're back to DFS. And is Cooper Kupp at 6,500 a good play given the weather concerns all around the league? Does he become a player that we maybe want to think about for the player pool? Because he's not in my initial player pool. Is he usable?
I think he's a decent GPP one-off. The Dolphins have been good against the pass this year, but their weak point is in the slot. They're a little bit better on the outside, so it's probably going to be a bad day for Woods. The Dolphins are also really bad against the run, so depending how this game plays out, there may not be a lot of passing opportunities, but I can definitely see Cooper Kupp having a halfway decent game, and whereas price ranges is going to be very low owned, and he's a good pivot off of some more popular guys. Like I think Justin Jefferson will still be pretty popular in spite of the weather, just some of that potentially easy money that might be out there. Tyler Boyd's only $100 more expensive, so it's a decent pivot off of that. He'll be more popular. So I think there's some potential there. You know, like I said, the way to attack the Dolphins through the air is through the slot receivers. So it could lead to some good things for Kupp today.
Just a reminder, I put the reminder up on the screen as well. If you guys are looking for type of fantasy, check out Thrive Fantasy. They are a prop bet based fantasy site. Basically, you get 10 prop bets to choose from, I believe it is, and you pick 5 of them. And if your guys do the best, you score the most points with that, you win. It's pretty simple to go with. And if you're really into prop betting and sports betting is becoming a big thing, and you are doing well with the sports betting with the DK Sportsbook or the FanDuel Sportsbook, wherever you live, and you want to turn that into some DFS love, check out Thrive Fantasy. If you use the promo code Bankster, you get a first time deposit match up to $50. So check them out over at thrivefantasy.com. Put in that promo code and take your prop bet skills to the next level with DFS. Something to think about there. We love the guys over at Thrive, and we're super happy to have partnered up with them and to get you guys that promo code to double up your initial deposit bonus. So I promised a fight. I just want to double check the chat room because on Friday night I did not. Okay, so Sam, I didn't hit the chat room on Friday night. I feel stupid about it. So I want to make sure I'm really active for the chat room for the guys who are in the chat. Sam just wanted to clear up that he had Jefferson for GPP, but he switched over to Kupp for the moment. I think that's a reasonable switch given their concerns. Yeah. I'm less concerned about the Green Bay side because Aaron Rodgers just has a better arm than Kirk Cousins. So I'm okay. I'm okay with staying with Adams and GPP particularly. I don't mind Thielen either, but Jefferson I have my concerns about. I think Kupp is a reasonable switch, particularly as a higher floor type of a player. He might not have the ceiling of Jefferson, but he's definitely got the higher floor. And if that's what you're looking for, if you just want some safety, I don't mind that play at all. So I've been promising a fight, and so we'll take this fight right here. Indianapolis, the Colts and the Lions. I've heard through the grapevine, and by through the grapevine, I mean Mike and I talked about it off air before we started, that I'm alone on this game's going to suck angle. I don't see it. The total for this game. So Mike and I like to do our board bets, and we pick games that we disagree on, and I will generally take the under, and he will generally take the over. I said, this game, and what's the total? 43, 44? He's like, yeah, it sounds about right. We looked it up. The total on this game is 49.5. 40.5. Could this game hit 49.5? Yeah, these teams have the talent to do that, but they also both have decent defenses. And if there are 2 quarterbacks I trust less than Phillip Rivers and Matt Stafford, I don't know where I found them. I mean, unless you're talking true garbage quarterbacks, okay? There are worse quarterbacks in the league, but in terms of just trust, these guys are like the Jay Cutler of the modern era. Like, there's just no trust that they're going to do what you want them to do. So I am of the belief that this is an avoid game. I have a little bit of love for DeAndre Swift. He's in some of my lineups. I have a little bit of love for Trey Burton. I really like the Detroit defense, but otherwise I'm staying off this game. I just don't see it becoming a shootout, which of course guarantees it'll be a shootout. Mike, explain to us what you see in this game. What do you like about this game?
Yeah, so the first point I'm going to touch on here is with the Colts defense and what I brought up 2 weeks ago on the live stream, on both live streams. The Colts schedule, their first 6 games has been their first 5 games before Cincy was extremely friendly. You know, they went up against the offensive juggernauts of the Jaguars, the Vikings, the Jets, the Bears, and the Browns. And in all of those games, they only gave up over 100 rushing yards twice. One actually was against the Jets, but that was fluky because it was such a blowout. And the other one was against the Browns. And the Browns love to run the ball 30 times a game. And then in the other game, and then on the passing side, they only gave up over 200 yards twice. And again, 240 yards to the Bears and 265 to the Browns. And even that Browns game went a little bit higher scoring than anticipated, but nothing too crazy. Colts defense still put up 11 points for fantasy purposes. But now we look at, once they got to the Bengal game, well, the Bengals not only put up 31 points against them, but threw for 313 yards and ran for another 98. And that was and Joe Mixon was active in that one as well. So when you start to get to now their schedule, you're seeing a team like the Lions, not the best offense in the world, but offense capable of doing some things. And I think people still have a bad taste in their mouth from Stafford from earlier in the year when Galladay was out. Stafford's ADOT was like under 8 yards per attempt when Stafford was when Galladay was out. But now it's back to over 10 yards a throw, and that's big. That's a big difference. And having Galladay in there really opens things up for them. So I think this Colts defense has been playing, a little bit above their heads, even though it was one of the teams I loved in the offseason as a fantasy pick for season longs. But I just think that this defense is going to start to show some cracks, and and there's some good things to like here, and we know the Lions defense doesn't light the world on fire either, and they can be had. I found a good thing from Pro Football Focus that the Colts are actually averaging 7.7 yards per drop back, which is actually top 5 in the NFL, believe it or not. And the Lions defense is allowing 7 yards per drop back, which is as well top 5 in the NFL. So when you combine these two things, I think it actually could be I think it could be a favorable day for Phillip Rivers. Where the production will go could potentially be a little bit of an issue of trying to decipher. I know Sean likes Zach Pascal in this one. I'm not as keen on him. I'm a little more focused on Trey Burton and Marcus Johnson. And I've sprinkled in a little T.Y. Hilton because he's at 4,900. And, I think that pop game is going to come from Hilton at some point. We tend to see that 100-yard, 2-touchdown type of game. And, this one is as good as any to see that. And I like the other side too with Stafford and Galladay. I mean, Detroit is a lot easier to focus on. To me, it's you use Galladay and nothing else unless you are using Stafford, and then you kind of mix in those Colts players. I also think too that the reason I like this game in the passing side, it's a nice leverage play against Jonathan Taylor, who's going to be extremely chalky in this one because of the Lions' run defense and how porous they are. And also, too, I mean, Taylor hasn't done anything to prove that he's worthy of being of such high chalk. I mean, he's getting a lot of the carries, but they're still working in Jordan Wilkins and Nyheim Hines, and he's getting no passing work. So he's barely seeing, 60% of the snaps. I don't even think he's crossing that point. So, if everybody's going on the Jonathan Taylor side, well, I'd rather go on the passing game. And I think with this high total that is really shocking to see. I think this game can be a surprising one. And again, this is one where we don't have to worry about weather. And, and Phillip Rivers has always been that guy on the road that his teams tend to play from behind, where he can struggle a little bit or throw some errant interceptions that forces him to throw more throughout the game. I think we could see something like that. And the Lions play better at home. And this could be something that the Lions are really starting to get into their groove. And, with that, I think this game can really surprise. And I've stacked it in a couple of different ways. And I really do like I really like the leverage here that I think the passing game will bring.
Let me tell you why I don't like this game. And it has to be a game. So I'm taking a look here at the stat line for Rivers this year. And I understand with their receiving core and all that, but there are plenty of teams who deal with injuries with their receiving core, and they do okay. Matt Stafford has had this right here is what scares the Jacksonville matchup. This was a really good spot for him, and he put up 13 fantasy points on 31 attempts. That's the type of Stafford can bring. Come out and go and get in a smash spot and just put up garbage. Again, very Jay Cutler like. Phillip Rivers, same. Phillip Rivers has had a number of favorable matchups this year. I understand the Colts want to be a running team, and I think they're going to try to be a running team today as well. Bless you. But you take a look at matchups. Cleveland, good pass, 7 points. Jets, good passing matchup, 13 points. I understand defense, 2 touchdowns, sure, helped with that, and a lot of running. So fair. Minnesota, great passing matchup, 12 points. Jacksonville, great passing matchup, 20 points. Okay, if I get 20 points out of Rivers, I guess I'm happy. But am I happy in a GPP? Not really. Talking about Jonathan Taylor. All right, well, let's look at Jonathan Taylor. We already talked about the complete lack of work that he's getting. But and everyone says, oh, he's chalked because of that porous Lions rush defense. But are they a poor rush defense? Last 2 weeks, they went against the number 2 PPR fantasy running back in Robinson and the top touchdown scoring running back in Todd Gurley. They combined rushing yards. I hit value with 20 points, but he hit value because he fell into the end zone on a play that they let him score. To me, that doesn't Todd Gurley's performance in that game. They crushed the running backs in each of those last 2 games. And if Jonathan Taylor is not getting 20 to 25 touches in this game against a defense that's improved itself, I just don't see it. Take a look at the wide receivers. Kenny Golladay. I had him in cash last week. He was in an absolute smash last week. And when they throw him the ball, he makes spectacular catch after spectacular catch. But he's just not getting the target volume for a guy of his, 7, 6, 8, 7. Where's the 10 target game? It's not there. T.Y. Hilton, listen, $4,900. T.Y. Hilton can break a slate at $4,900. He is a ridiculously good one-off. Anytime he's $4,900, I don't care how much I like the matchup or not. But if we're really going to stack this game, where's the volume been by this year? He has 5, 5, 5, 3, 3. I mean, he's had 2 games where he's had a decent target share, and he put up 9 points and 12 points in those games. Like, it's just not there. Marvin Jones has been terrible this year. Now, because I've said all this game's going to be like 73-65. We're going to come back next week, and Mike's going to go, I told you, and Sean's going to go, I told you. And great, you all told me, but like, I just don't see it. This game and even with the weather, I just don't see it. But again, I hope if you play this that I'm wrong. I don't mind being wrong if you play it, and if you fade it, I hope I'm right. It's we just want what's best for you guys. I just don't see. I do see a path for success. I just don't trust the quarterbacks to get us there. Speaking of people I trust, Josh Hook is in the house. What's up, Hook? How's it going, buddy?
It's good.
What's going on?
Hook is here to talk to us. Hook is here to talk to us about some leverage plays today. It's one of our new focuses here at Bankster DFS is all the leverage we can have, and Hook's here to hook us up. We're going to call it. That's the new name of this segment. Josh is here to hook us up. He's never heard that before, I'm sure.
Doug,
welcome to Sunday,
Josh.
Josh.
A lot with you this morning on like the Indy take and the. I'm sure we'll get to San Francisco a little bit later. But Andy, what's the catalyst? Like, how do you get? Indy doesn't want to play fast. It's my opinion on that game. So
I agree with that.
They've thrown less than 30 times, multiple times this season, and Detroit doesn't really run the old school, the hurry up Detroit offense. Like, if Indianapolis doesn't push them, I don't see Detroit making them. So I'm just not in love. I like Hilton at his price. I mean, I could see Golladay maybe having a big game, but I don't feel like I need to go all in because I think people are just trying to kind of make something work for him, and I don't see it. But that being said, I have a Hilton Golladay lineup. So,
well, listen, if you're playing enough lineups, everyone finds their way eventually. But I'm with you. So it's Doug, the old baseball writing team, against Mike and Sean on this Indy game. We'll see whose victory will happen next week.
Yeah, absolutely. I might just mute my chat.
I don't chances, Hook, with the way these bets have been going for me. I am 0 for 2. Sean and I have one on the Seattle San Francisco game, and I feel like even though it's not official, Gouda and I have one on this game, sort of, where if it's going to at least hit the total.
Hey, at least I'm on your side this week for San Fran Seattle, so you can feel good in that one.
Success. So, Hook, what do you got for us this week? Where's some leverage plays we got this week, buddy?
So actually, like, kind of building through, I think like kind of chalk is going to condense this weekend. With the weather and the wind, everyone's freaking out. I'm really heavy Cincinnati, Tennessee as a whole. That's where I'm gonna stick just make my move this weekend. And how I'm gonna differentiate it is I'm just going to commit to it. So like when I'm stacking this game, like if I have Burrow as my quarterback, I have 2 Cincinnati wide receivers. Most people will just take one. AJ Green, because he's the cheapest. He's had 24 targets the last 2 weeks, and he's a great play. But I'm throwing in T. Higgins or Tyler Boyd, who still have enough opportunity to and target share, because they've all had, I think my numbers are right here. Boyd has gone 8 or above in 3 of his last 4. Same with Higgins. They can easily make hit value. And in tournaments, we're looking more for like 4 times instead of 3 times. And Burrow's going to throw it 40-plus times today. I don't care about the win. I mean, all of them could see 8+ targets, and when we're worried about wind, we're worried about like deep over the top passes. This is more kind of like with like Higgins, like who in theory runs deep routes. He runs more like 2 zone fields, where it's not just a fly pattern where they're going to lob the ball up and hopefully he gets under it. They're going to run not quite a slant, but it'll start short and then just. I wish I had a diagram. I'm going to make a diagram next week if I talk about this. Yeah, where it's more built
like
on
more seam route. Like he's going to run down the seam. Like they're going to try to hit him on a zip down.
Yeah, kind of like that. Like where he'll actually be used maybe in the middle a little bit. It'll come from the outside across like 2 levels where it goes into the linebacker safety coverage, and they try and hit him in the middle, and then they use him to run.
Gotcha.
So a lot of his, his 8-out is a little deep, but his is built more on him creating yaks for his big plays. I'm also bringing him back with Henry, Brown, and Smith, who will all be a little chalky, but I have 2 of those guys generally. I really like Corey Davis today. If you look at his when he's been healthy, he's hit about 20, I think 3 times on the season. Maybe I'm not 100% right on that. But again, I think points are going to be scored in this game. Tennessee's defense has done nothing to stop anybody. Cincinnati isn't either. Cincinnati's offensive line is, I think I read it today, all 5 starters from week 1 are out. So I'm just going to load up on game. I'll let people move to less optimal positions because they're afraid of wind, and I'm not going to be that guy. So I'm going to research all week.
I'm with you. This is my heaviest owned game. This is my heaviest owned game this week on the Burrow side, particularly. I couldn't agree with you more.
And then, secondly, I've seen Keenan Allen be talked up a lot this week. And from the ownership stuff I've seen, he's probably going to be 1 or 2 in ownership for wide receivers. I like pivoting to Hunter Henry. Just fade Allen, go Henry. Henry's seen 7+ targets in 5 of 6 games, and I think people will be a little bit have last week on his mind when he didn't do anything. I just think that's just the way it worked that week. I don't think it was he's a very important part of this offense. And against Denver, they're still going to throw some. They got to score, and I think Henry is just at 4,200. That's too cheap for a tight end seeing 8+ targets a week. I also, being the Mizzou guy, I like Alberto. I can't say his last name. Couldn't say it when I was at Mizzou. Not going to worry about learning it now. But he saw 7 targets last week, and in the last 2 weeks, he's seen 3 red zone targets. This is kind of like the Harrison Bryant special. The Denver receiving core is really depleted, and Drew Lock has a connection with them. They played together. We played Harrison Bryant for 2,500. I'm going to take a guy who got 7 targets for 2,800 the next week. So I'm just going to be in. Also, the Saints game, I think Kamara is going to probably come in the top 5 in ownership at running back. I'm just off this game as a whole. I see the value in Kamara and cash because I think he has a high floor with his receptions. I just don't love the upside today. With Drew Brees, we already seen he can't throw the ball downfield. Like he can't, and the wind's not going to help him. And the Bears are elite at defending deep passing, but knowing that the Saints can't do that, they're probably going to bring more guys up, and I think it's more guys up to defend Kamara, and I think it's going to impact him. And it's really tough for me to see a ceiling game in this spot. My favorite weird stack of the day that I think is just going to be low owned. I really like running Pittsburgh and Baltimore. I think teams that blitz, these teams, they blitz at nearly 50% of the time, the 2 highest rates in the league. Generally, when teams blitz like that, they're vulnerable over the top. And Marquise Brown, I've seen him. It feels like every week I see him they miss a pass deep. And it's going to hit one of these days. And today's that day. And I've seen Deontay Johnson under 5% ownership today. And I know people are just burned by his injuries, but in the 3 games he's played the full game, he's had 10, 12, and 15 targets. That should be a $7,200 wide receiver, not a $5,500 guy.
Ben loves to. Ben absolutely loves him.
Yeah, I'll play Deontay every week until if people aren't on him, I'm playing him. Now it looks like Marlon Humphrey's going to get Schuster. So Deontay's going to get Marcus Peters. I'm not worried about that. So
very well.
Yeah, and I think Pittsburgh is a team that will adapt their offense to what works. And the Ravens get Brandon Williams back at nose tackle today, which is a huge upgrade to their run defense. So I'm not really on Connor, but I think just Pittsburgh will accept that they have to pass to win this game. And I think that benefits Deontay more than anyone.
I love the game too. I love that game too. Is there one other player before we let you go on this? Is there one other player looking at this week that you're just like, guys, this is no one's really talking about him? Play this guy.
Like this kind of goes to the Seattle game, right? So like the receivers from Seattle don't really get their value off heavy volume. They get it from making big splash plays. So I have some interest in Moore, the wide receiver for Seattle, if I was going to have a receiver in that game. My issue with last week's game for Seattle is they ran 82 offensive plays. If you had San Francisco and Seattle and you throw out those games, both teams average right around 60 plays per game. And I don't see any way this game turns into a 37-34 shootout with Jimmy Garoppolo one of the main pieces in this game. My favorite, just super low. Like I think Alberto is going to be like 1% owned today, and I think that's for just cheap play today. I also really like Darrell Henderson.
Love him.
I think he's been averaging over 14 plus touches a game. Miami's secondary is vastly improved when they added Byron Jones, and I think Darrell Henderson's they're going to have success running the football. The interesting person, though, and I want to hear your guys' thoughts real quick. What do you guys think of Tua today? He's going to have no ownership, and we have a potential near min price quarterback, and Tua runs, right? Like, I mean,
yeah,
he's run for 50 and a touch. Like, if you're going to run a naked quarterback stack, I mean, put Tua in there, right? He's going to have no ownership today.
Yeah, I mean, my concern there is, well, one, obviously we have no idea what we're going to get from him. I mean, there's definitely a rushing floor there. But also, too, the Rams' defense has been pretty improved this year versus what we saw towards the end of last year. And same thing, the Rams like to play a little bit of a slower paced game, and I think it's going to be tough. The Dolphins' O-line hasn't been great. The Rams are one of the top sack teams in the league, so Tua is going to see tons of pressure from Aaron Donald and company this week. And I think as well that at that point, if you're getting Ramsey shadowing Devontae Parker, then it comes down to, all right, who's Tua going to rely on? Does he have any what type of chemistry does he have with Gesicki or Preston Williams? Is he going to check down a bunch to Gaskin? Where is that going to come from? If I always like to say, if you're building tons of lineups, there's never anything wrong with giving a guy a shot in a lineup or two as a what if, like we said this week one, with Burrow making his debut. What if he's good? What if he just comes out and Burrow was worthy of that number 1 pick? What if Tua was worthy of that number 5 pick? He comes out and he shows what he can do, and it just starts from the beginning, like we've kind of seen with Burrow and Herbert. It's highly it's highly possible. I just always tend to take the safer approach and wait a week or two and see what the guy is made of and where it's go. But again, we've seen this year with rushing quarterbacks that all it takes is one run for this guy to to take an okay or a bad day to a good day, and even like Kyler Murray hasn't been special this year with passing. But his rushing ability this year has elevated him into that next level, and I think Tua profile is very similar to what Kyler is, so we could see a similar type of thing.
I don't think Tua runs as well as Kyler. I don't think any quarterback other than Lamar Jackson runs as well as Kyler. I think Tua will be on the run a lot this week, but but $5,600 isn't min price enough for me if I'm spending down a quarterback. And I can't believe we're doing this. But here we go again. Sam Darnold. We're going back to those Jets. I just going to have to throw, and I don't think that the Dolphins are going to have to throw. I think they keep the game a lot closer with the Rams than the Jets do. And I just think I could see Darnold doubling the amount of attempts Tua has. I think there's going to be a lot of Gaskin, a lot of defense in the Miami game. If the weather was better, I'd go Carr heavily over Tua. I understand that, Garoppolo is going to be the low-priced quarterback this week. And Tua's a leverage play, I suppose, off that. But if I'm going to go down to Darnold, I'm just going to just gonna go there. I mean, I swear, folks, I'm not a Jets fan. It's just always that we come back to this. But like I'm a Giants fan, so I'm definitely not a Jets fan. But for me, I'm not playing Tua. I have him in 0%. If I'm making 150 lineup, well, I always make to see what it would look like. I have 0% of Tua. He's not my player pool at all. I do have some Darnold, and that's sad. That I want Tua to do well, but personally, I'm not there. I'd almost rather than Tua at that point too, just for $100 more, because I think Cam's going to have a second bad game in a row. I don't want anyone in this Buffalo game, a New England game. I don't. But if I had to go at that price point, I mean, Cam's going to have that. He should have a decent rushing. He's going to run more. He's going to try to have a lower ADOT in this game, so there's a chance he can put up some. So he could accumulate some yards that route if he just is dumping it off to his running back. And if he's running and he gets a goal line touch, there are other options I'd rather go with the Tua. Let's put it that way. I'm not on the Tua train this week, but hey, if you are, more power to you. Listen, you want leverage play. That's no one's going to have him. So that's and if he throws a couple bombs, you're looking good. But he's not at Alabama anymore, and he's not playing Ole Miss this week. He's playing a really good Rams defense.
I was just trying to get your feel on it. Like, it was a 150 lineup play, not a single max or single and 3 max. What I do mostly. So I got one more, just one more leverage. And,
I'd love to hear it.
It's actually more on roster construction than your a specific player. When I get to my flex position this week, I'm going 4th receiver a lot more than 3rd running back in tournaments. I think the ownership is going to tilt to Henry, Kamara, Williams, Bernard even, and maybe a couple other, and Hunt. And I think just having 4 receivers as a whole makes your lineup look different. And, I mean, that's what we're trying to do. And so it's kind of sometimes I toy with roster. You kind of figure with roster construction, most people are just worried about a percentage next to the player's name when they think of just ownership. But really just the way you set up your lineup, the way it looks is a more way of being different. And so I think we worry too much about that percentage sometimes. And I think just a 4th receiver is a different lineup this week, considering considerably. Because receivers
for sure.
I think a good route. I think double tight end's not necessarily the worst route to take either. You're looking at if you want to go like a Kelsey, Jimmy Graham, or even a Jonnu Smith, Jimmy Graham. I like Jimmy Graham as sort of a one-off tight end play with Owens being so bad against the tight end revenge game narrative. Allen Robinson coming off the concussion protocol. I do think there's a route to take, but I think this is definitely a 4 wide receiver week for in GPPs. Love the strategy. Hook, thank you so much. You guys can find Hook on Twitter at HookMonster or hanging out buying into breaks at Chicagoland. He's there. Him and Gouda and myself, we're there all the time as well. Thanks for everything, Hook. We'll catch you later. And you guys can find Hook as well in the members only Slack chat at Big Fest, $3.99 a week. We'll catch up with you later, buddy. Good luck this week.
Good luck today.
So, question came in from Sam. He's moving around a little bit, and he wants to switch out Cooper Kupp now for Tyler Lockett instead of Metcalf. What are your thoughts? Even though he agrees it's a Metcalf week, what are your thoughts on that, Michael?
That's a tough one. I mean, saying Lockett's a bad play always feels crazy, but if you just look at Lockett's breakdown, he's truly like truly a boom or bust. I mean, he's a perfect GPP play every week because he can go for 50 or he can go for 5. So it's a matter of where that goes. Yep. And I think that the 49ers may key on Lockett a little bit more just because of what he did last week. If you have the money to go up from Kupp, I probably would prefer either. Actually, let me bring up the pool here. I'd probably prefer from Kupp going up to either Kenny Golladay, Tyreek Hill, or AJ Brown. I don't know what the construction of your roster looks like. If there's maybe somebody else that even makes more sense potentially, depending on stacks or correlation. But I would say you're probably better off going to AJ Brown than to Tyler Lockett, or even Tyreek Hill, again, Lockett's going to be so high owned that yes, if he goes off, you'll be behind the field. But at the same token, spending 7,100 on a receiver, he's got to go for 25 points just to even be in the realm of contention, to be realistic here. And I think it's more. I think AJ Brown has better paths to success than Lockett does. I also potentially feel that this game is going to be a little disappointing, that San Fran Seattle game too. So
agreed.
So so you could see that from that angle as well.
If I'm Cooper Kupp, which I'm okay coming off Cooper Kupp, the receivers I would go to are basically the ones that Gouda mentioned, as well as Marquise Brown, Keenan Allen, Tyler Boyd, Tyreek Hill, AJ Brown. That to me is the pool in that range. He wants to add in Galladay, and I surely wouldn't begrudge you for that, because I think Galladay is a spectacular receiver, and if Stafford can get him 10 targets, he's going to crush his value. I would take all of those guys above Cooper Kupp if I was coming off of Justin Jefferson about Jefferson. That's definitely the direction I would go. I just think they're better options. Lockett may have the highest upside of all of them, outside of maybe Tyreek Hill and AJ Brown. He might have the highest upside, but that downside is he's wildly inconsistent. San Francisco knows what he can do. They're a better defense than what they pick. Tyler Lockett rarely goes off 2 weeks in a row. This is Tampa Bay. This is just like Tampa Bay. If it's not a Lockett week, it's a Metcalf week, which for a while they were both sustainable, but right now Wilson tends to lock on one guy and just takes advantage of the mismatches, and he just will feed the guy. I do think it's more of a Metcalf week, but in general, I think this is a letdown for this game. Sean and I were talking about this game. I go under 50, I think. The total's 54. It was 54. I said it would go under 50. A lot of people are playing this game heavily. I've some exposure to this game, particularly on the San Francisco side, particularly with Kendrick Bourne and Ayuk and cash. But I have Kendrick Bourne a lot in the GPP. I think he's got crazy upside in a GPP, only $3,500. But otherwise, I'm not rolling this game very heavily at all. I just think too many people are going to be on it. Too many people are going to be on it. I think there's not enough people on the Chiefs, not enough people on Baltimore, Pittsburgh. Not if people are running from Cincinnati, Tennessee, not enough people are going to be on that then. And then even in Detroit, I don't. Gouda does. Sean does. No one's going to be on that game. So there's a lot of leverage to be had there. Based on leverage alone, that's a game worth stacking. Even though I'm not on it, it doesn't mean I'm right to not be on it. It means I've just not put them. I haven't put them in my personal pool because I'm so heavy on Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Tennessee, Cincinnati, and Kansas City. Yeah, but those are the play game. I just don't love it. And Sean's chiming in too. He's down. He's down a little bit.
He's down. Unlock it. So, and also too, just
he's down this week. Unlock it. He's down. Unlock it.
Kind of like a little bit of a quick learning lesson here. Also, like we try to teach as much as we try to help you with your constructions. Like in France, Seattle, because of the weather and everything, this game, most pieces in this game probably going to be anywhere from 25 to even 40% owned for guys like like Ayuk and even potentially Bourne or Dallas. When we talk about a game like this and that we're down on it or off of it a little bit, we don't mean it in the sense of a total fade and don't use any of the players, but having much smaller exposures versus the field. So having, this game exposed like 10 to 15%. I have stacks of San Fran, I have stacks of Seattle. It's silly not to make stacks of them because the potential is so great in this game. But at the same point, when we have that feeling of it disappointing, that's how we show it in our exposures. We go down to 10 or 15% instead of being even with the field at 30 to 35%. And that's where you gain some of that leverage as well, as Hook was saying a little while ago too.
Yeah, this game's not a complete fade. Exactly what Good is saying. When we're down on a game, we'll let you know if it's a complete fade. Like for the most part, I'm completely fading like the Buffalo New England game. I'm heavily fading the Chargers Denver game. I am heavily fading outside of Kamara and Cash, the New Orleans Chicago game. Like their games, the Rams Miami game, I'm heavily fading outside of like Gaskin and the Dolphins defense. San Francisco Seattle, there's definite exposure there. I'm just not at 30%. I'm upset, and I'm okay with that. And it sounds like that's exactly where Good is at in that as well. Geez, what else do we want to touch on here? Good. We covered a lot in this game. Oh, you know what I wanted to cover when Hook was talking? I wanted to come back to this Baltimore game, just in terms of forgetting the ownership, but talking about Marquise Brown. Marquise Brown at $6,100 on DraftKings to me is just an optimal GPP one-off kind of break the slate type of player. I talked about it in my GPP strategy video that I have up on our YouTube page right now. Check that out, YouTube. Doug, just look me up, Doug Shane. Like, share, subscribe, click the notification icon, all that good stuff that the kids are supposed to say. Smash that notification icon. But yeah, I talked about Marquise Brown being a great one-off. Is if he, he could have 2 catches, 100 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Like, that's 27 points. That's amazing. If you check him out on FanDuel, and I don't have FanDuel pulled up, he's $5,900 on FanDuel. Now on FanDuel, pricing is softer, but it's softer relative to the overall cap, which is 60,000, not 50,000. And the really good wide receivers of Marquise Brown's ilk are generally in the 7K range for those who don't play on FanDuel.
Mm-hmm.
$5,900, he's in like so many FanDuel lineups of mine because it's a stupid price. We find a price that's a stupid price, just like Tyreek Hill was last week, and I think 6,400, and it didn't pay off necessarily, but it didn't kill you either. Marquise Brown at this price, when it's just wrong, you get him in your lineup and you get him in heavily. Like, that's how you win GPPs. You find his pricings, you find guys who could break a slate, and you get him in there. And to me, that's Marquise Brown. And Hook had spoken about, or one of you guys had spoken about the quarterbacks. I think it was Hook.
Yeah.
That Humphrey's going to get on, which means Marcus Peters is going to get on Deontay Johnson. Peters is a guy that puts up real flashy numbers. He gets a lot of interceptions, returns a lot of them for touchdowns, and people think that makes him a shutdown corner, and he's not a shutdown corner. He gets a lot of interceptions because quarterbacks, he goes for the interception, and when he misses that interception, receivers can break free and go for the touchdown. He tries to get, instead of knocking the ball down or just getting the tackle, he will try for the spectacular interception a lot. And oftentimes it works because he gets so many opportunities. But oftentimes he whiffs, the ball is in the receiver's hand, and Marcus Peters is laying on the ground because he went for the interception. A guy like Deontay Johnson, who even as far back as last year, had profiled very similarly to Antonio Brown. Hopefully just football skills-wise and not head case-wise. But at football skills, and if you watch him play, he does play real similarly to Antonio Brown. Ben liked to throw to Antonio Brown, and he really likes throwing to Deontay Johnson. The volume tells me Ben agrees with that. And if he's getting Marcus Peters, and Marcus Peters is trying to be flashy, Deontay Johnson's going to have a lot of yards after the catch today. He's going to get a ton of targets regardless. Could be a great play as a one-off, but I'm using him in just about every lineup where I have Marquise Brown. I'm not just going one-off. I'm trying to run it back with Deontay Johnson, and I have a lot of Lamar Jackson, Deontay Johnson, Marquise Brown, Mark Andrews lineups. I just think this game goes over the total. I bet the over on the total for this game, too. I think the total for this game is 46, 48, something in that respect. I think it breaks 50. I think this is one of the more offensive battles between Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and Doug is a fan.
It's definitely going overlooked. I mean, the Steelers' pass D is not what they were. Last year they've been a little susceptible in the air, and their run defense has been superb yet again. And they have the talent on defense that if Lamar gets pressure or gets out of the pocket, that they can contain him. So Lamar will be forced to pass more, and eventually he's going to hook up with Marquise Brown. He had some really bad overthrows this year. It's been quite disappointing. I had some high hopes for Brown coming into this year with Jackson being forced to pass more. So I've been half right on it, but they just haven't been able to connect. So I'm hoping this maybe starts the trend for the second half of the year. And and to your point on the pricing, on DraftKings, Brown is in my opinion, he's priced perfectly. He's at the price where people will look at, he hasn't done much. Do I really want to spend that $6,100? So keep ownership down. But he's at that point where for him to really get that 4 or 5x, it's not like he's at 7,000 where you need so much more to have that smash game. So it's kind of like that perfect pricing too.
Yeah, I love where he's at this week. Like I said, I have a lot of FanDuel, so much more. It just 5,900 is ridiculous.
And to be honest, a guy like Marquise Brown is actually even a little bit of a better play on FanDuel than DraftKings because it's only half point PPR versus DraftKings being the full point PPR.
Right, because we don't have to rely on that volume to hit off.
Yeah,
that's far more touchdown and yardage dependent. That's where Brown excels, and really Pittsburgh has been terrible against deep passes all year. They're one of the worst teams in the league against deep passes.
Mm-hmm.
And what that means is if Lamar Jackson's getting outside the pocket, their eyes come up just for a second and they lose track of that receiver. Brown's going to get behind the defense. Happened with A.J. Brown last week. Happened with Travis Fulgham a couple weeks ago. Happened with Darius Slayton week 1. Quarterback gets out. And all those were with somewhat mobile quarterbacks. So if they start to scramble, cornerbacks look up. Touchdown. And the same, and that's why I like Andrews in this game as well, because he's a very athletic tight end. And if that linebacker starts to look up or the safety comes down and starts to get his eyes in the backfield, they're going to get open. And with no Mark Ingram, Gus Edwards is far less of a receiving back. We might see some more J.K. Dobbins, which actually will force someone to cover the running back out of the backfield, giving more opportunities for single coverage or looser coverage on the outside or down the middle with Edwards and or Andrews. I said Edwards. Mark Andrews. We're in a really good spot here. I probably like this game far more than I should, but I do, and this is where plant your flag and run with it. And if they do really well, I'm going to do really well. And if they don't do really well, run 150 lineups. You got other shit. I got 90 other chances, 110 other chances to hit something. But I'll be far above the field on this game. I believe I will be. And
I mean,
that's
we've
by
been.
design.
I feel like we've been saying it every week. If you could get Kansas City at under 10% ownership, why wouldn't you do it? Well, we're basically getting Baltimore at under 10% ownership as well, and we don't talk about that as much. But to the same token, I understand Baltimore has been a little disappointing this season. But what has Kansas City done on offense to say that there's excitement to actually using them? It's the same thing. You're going off of their past performances and the potential that they have. So getting Baltimore under 10% ownership on a day where we've got some ugly weather, we've got some ugly looking games, and what's going to happen? This is one that's probably most likely for that shootout potential and a high scoring game. So take advantage of it where you can, because as soon as Baltimore has that 40-point day where Lamar throws for 300, runs for 100, and Brown and Andrews are both over 100 yards and a touchdown, they're 25% owned the next week, and you're not getting them on the cheap anymore.
Yep, why you can. Listen, the best way to win a GPP, figure out what the field's doing and do the other thing, as long as it's not, stupid, right? We, again, in my strategy video this week, I talked about we're not going to stack Drew Lock with Deshaun Hamilton and win a GPP. Most likely. It's not. Could it go up? Yeah, you could throw 4 touchdowns to Hamilton this week. Is there any data that would support that? Absolutely not.
Not at all.
You do, I'm much happier running Lamar Jackson at 7% than I am at running Drew Lock at 2%. And so that's how you win GPPs. You find what the field's doing and do the other thing. If that means playing the running game when the passing game's big, just like I do feel like we had some leverage on Dalvin Cook, and we might not anymore as people are coming off the running game. But I do think there's some leverage with Devontae Adams now, because people might be looking to Jamal Williams. There's going to be some leverage maybe on Kareem Hunt if people are totally scared off by the Cleveland game. Pittsburgh-Baltimore is a leverage game. The Kansas City game's a leverage game. Running Derrick Henry in a Tennessee stack is leverage. So you don't have to do it with garbage players at 1% ownership. You can find studs and run them out as contrarian plays. Find what the field is doing. Do the other thing. Guys, if you like hearing this kind of information, please check us out, banksterdfs.com. $3.99 a week gets you access to everything. Daily articles, player pools, and the best Slack chat in the business. We cover all the major sports, all the niche sports, all the college sports, and it's all for that $3.99 a week. That's not per sport. That is one price. Gouda and I will be back on Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. I should have a cash game article up on YouTube page, so please make sure to check us out on YouTube. Just put in my name, Doug Shane, and click the like, share, subscribe, notification bell, all the things you're supposed to hit so you know when new content's coming out. You can find Big Gouda on Twitter at The Big Gouda. You can find me on Twitter at Bankster17. Gouda, thank you for a wonderful show today.
Thanks for having me, as always.
And having you're the co-host. There's no show without the Gouda. It's everything. It's like a really good sandwich. Got to have the Gouda, but we've got the Gouda. We got to have it. All right, guys. Thank you again for checking us out. Everyone who came into the chat, thank you guys for checking us out every week. Again, banksterdfs.com. We'll see you guys. Best of luck. Looking forward to the green screen.